What's going on, lads and lassies? It's Ocean from the South Stand, back again with another video, and today I have the absolute pleasure of talking about Sunderland 3, Bournemouth 2. What an incredible game at the Stadium of Light. Not a perfect game, but just felt like a proper football game between the rain, the weather, the crowd, the lot. It just, brilliant viewing yesterday, and I am buzzing to get right in and talking about it. But before we get into things today, I've got to remind you guys, Black Friday is not over at the South Stand. You can jump online and get yourself any of these t-shirts, these hats. Jump on over to the southstandclothing.com. We've still got 20% off all the way until end of day on Monday. Don't forget to use code HAWAII20 at checkout. Save yourself 20%. Get yourself your Christmas present sorted for your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, yourself. Jump on at the southstandclothing.com and get that 20% off whilst it lasts. Now, let's jump right into things. The guys, as I said in the intro, what a game. This was one of them ones where we started off, both teams just going end-to-end, basketball, football, straight from the start. And the fact that in the first 15 minutes, Sunderland were playing fairly well and still found themselves two goals down was just a bit baffling to me, to be honest, because yes, there was a few maybe mistakes or misplaced passes here and there, but to be 2 goals down after 15 minutes did feel like a little bit of a shock. But I don't think it was just me when I say that I sat there and went, this game's not over. There's plenty of time left in this game, and there's just something about this Sunderland team. They don't know when the game's gone. They don't know when the game's died. They are ready to keep going until the very end, as we know. But let's start off by talking about the team lineups. So I'm not going to blow my own horn too much here, but if you want to talk about ball knowledge, I called the lineup to a T in last week's preview video. I just felt like it was time. We definitely switched back to the 4-3-3, gave ourselves an opportunity, start off at home on the attacking foot, and we've seen it from the off that this is exactly what happened in this game. Enzo Lefebvre in that number 10 role. Wow. I think it was one of his best games in a Sunderland shirt since he's came to the Stadium of Light. I think we noticed in the Championship how he raised standards. We see it as Regis and the players themselves talk about this kind of French contingency alongside Xhaka, alongside Luke O'Nien. This leadership throughout the group that Regis and the whole club, to be honest, has managed to build within this squad. And for me, that's shown as well through the likes of Enzo. For him to start the season off in an unfavoured position out on the left wing, knowing fine well that we'd bought Habib Diarra and that it didn't seem we were going to be playing with this sort of number 10, to then play that role on the left wing as well as he has done so far this season, and then take another step up yet again in that central position in this game. For me, I spoke about last week in the video saying I would love to see him in this position. I just don't know if we're not seeing him because Regis doesn't trust his physicality almost. You know, we look at someone like Liverpool, who we play this week coming up. There's been so much talk about their £120 million Florian Wirtz this season and his physicality and his lack of ability to adapt to the Premier League. And we're talking about a player in Enzo Lefebvre that's more diminutive than most players in this league, yet has such a massive impact both on and off the ball. I think you can't deny how hard he works when he's not got the ball, and he really, he just chases back everything. He's like a little terrier, just absolutely everywhere. And I think in this game in particular, although he drifted more towards the right, that right inside channel, he wasn't completely in a more central role. We've seen him take up space all across that forward line, and I think he did an incredible job playing those central passes, playing the fact in this game in particular, he not only created one big chance, but he had 3 key passes as well, which is something in that position in particular I feel that we've been lacking. As I said, he drifted a lot more to the right, but there seemed to be a real connection between him, Traore and Mukiele in this game. We'll get on to Traore. I think we see it all the time. We need to remember this is a guy that we bought for, am I right in saying $1.5 million, I believe? I think it was 1.5 for Traore at the end of the transfer window there. And for him to come in to this lineup, obviously displaced Halby, who we imagined was going to be our right winger to start the season. Displaced him, start off in a little bit of a rocky ground in terms of how he was working off the ball and all that kind of stuff. And then to develop as he has week on week. He's clearly yet another player that's flourishing under Regis and his coaching squad's coaching. I think he's done an amazing job, and him and Enzo and Mukiele in that game in particular, the 3 of them, I think done a fantastic job being able to rotate and be really fluid with each other's movements. And when I spoke last week about Bertrand Traore as well, I said he gets himself in these amazing positions. He's really good at coming in from wide and getting himself into position to shoot, but I just felt like he was unable to ever get power into the shot. And then you see the goal that he scores in this game, and it's such a cultured shot in the sense that you see him, the chance appears to open up for him to begin with, and then you see him take that one extra touch just to open the defender's legs and absolutely smashes it through the defender's leg into the near post. I think, yeah, it just showed what kind of player he is. It showed the experience he's got as well, just to take that extra touch and know that he's going to get it in there. Otherwise, in the lineup, of course, we've seen Talby return to the starting lineup, this time in the left wing. I feel slightly bad for him because I think stats-wise it probably reflects more poorly than he actually played. I think for me it was more of a lack of involvement really overall. I don't think he put too much of a foot wrong. I just don't think he was able to have near the impact that he's able to have when he comes on at the end of the game. But yeah, I think we can see with Talbot, there's very clearly a high-level player in there, but he just seems to be taking that touch longer to be in more starting player ready than some of these other lads have done. And then, of course, otherwise, in the starting lineup, the kind of more big news as well, was that Trey Hume was dropped from the starting lineup, and then Omar Alderete made his way in. Now, this, again, I think it seems a little bit harsh on Trey Hume. I feel that he's so far this season, for him to have stepped up to the Premier League in the way he has, even though there's been a little mistake in him here and there, I think he's been excellent. But in this game, the back four, I think when you're going to lock into playing only four at the back, this just has to be the four that you go with. I thought Mukiele, although he didn't have a brilliant game, it was more... For me, Mukiele didn't have a brilliant game, but it's not in the sense that it's anything at all that I'm concerned about. It's just the misplaced passes, unfortunately falling over, that led to the first goal. Yeah, it's just little things like that with him that went wrong for him on the night. But then we see a man like Ronaldo who, honestly, the athleticism on him is just incredible. The way he can get up and down that pitch, especially considering he is one of the older players in our squad. I think he just does a fantastic job in getting Sunderland up the field. But look, that was a brief, obviously I say brief, actually rather long-winded way of going over the team list and briefly how they did. We will get more in detail on how the game actually went itself, but following into Bournemouth, who of course started with Petrovic in goal, Truffert in at left back, Senesi, Diakite and Smith in at the back line, followed by Tyler Adams and Alex Scott in the midfield. Semenyo making his return, although we weren't sure if he was going to be able to get back in for this game. Wow, like, we already know what kind of player Antoine Semenyo is, but then when you actually see him playing your team and he just stands out as one of the best, if not the best player in the park, he is just electric. Like, no wonder he's managed to tear so many teams apart this season. He's just... I don't feel like there's enough words left for me to sum up how his seasons went so far for him, but definitely a standout within that Bournemouth team. And then obviously following up with Tavernier sitting in that Enzo Lefebvre type role, with Adley on the right wing and Evan Nielsen up front for... So let's get into the game and how it went. As I said, both teams come out the gates, basketball, football, both having their chances, getting end to end. Unfortunately, it only takes 7 minutes for Bournemouth to go up 1-0, managing to take the lead through Amin Adley. Now, this is the one I touched on when I said Mukiele had an unfortunate slip defending Semenyo, and of course Semenyo managed to beat him past him and swing the ball in for Evan Nielsen. Robin Ruth does get a save on the initial shot, but unfortunately he palms it out and it goes straight to Adley. Puts Bournemouth up 1-0, and you know, with Bournemouth, I think it's just so clear. We spoke about in the last video not only how organised they are, but just their quality on the ball. They've just got so many good technical kind of tippy-tappy football players, and that showed. What I will say though is, right from the very start, the referee in this game just had absolutely no control over it. No control over it at all. I actually find it a little bit shocking coming out from this game and seeing not only Andoni Iraola claim that it was basically all one-sided and only Bournemouth were getting punished in this game. I think it was a fairly even shit show on both sides from the ref. I think he had absolutely no control in the game from minute one. He let a few harsh challenges go, immediately started punishing other ones that weren't nowhere near that harsh. I think when you talk about referees, it's one thing with the refs getting a decision here or there wrong, but when a ref genuinely has no control over a game from minute one, I think it's outrageous, to be honest. That's Premier League refereeing standards. Obviously, I don't want to talk about it too much because we did come away with the win, but on a bigger note from that refereeing standards thing, when you look at a game like today and just see the way the Bournemouth players surrounded them every single time, of course Sunderland players did too, But then in particular, when you see the way Iraola was so aggravated and so wound up, I think that translated into his players, to be honest, because they seemed to lose their head pretty quickly into this game with the referee's decisions. Then, of course, the game progresses. Sunderland keep getting their chances. You know, we've seen Traore get a chance. We've seen Wilson swinging a good ball that I think was going to be Talby get on the end of that one. Yeah, we had a number of chances in that first opening 20 minutes. And as I said, it was a type of game where we never played particularly poorly in that first 20 minutes. For me, it's one of those ones where on a night like that, on a day like that, with the rain coming down in the manner that it was just the misplaced passes. Like, we're turning over the ball so often. I'm going to hope and pray that this is just a bad weather type thing and the players, you know, on the night when it's lashing down like that, weren't able to. But it is a little bit concerning because it was the same at Fulham last week, just incomplete passes, forcing the turnover. And when you're against a team like Bournemouth, that's a big deal. It's a big deal because you've seen it in that game, how quickly they can break and how they can break with quality as well. And it's not long after that, in the 16th minute, that we see Tyler Adams gain possession, dribble just beyond the halfway line. And, I mean, see with goals like that, you just go, fair enough. Like, you can crack up about Roofs being off his line so far, but that's literally the style of football that we play, so he's going to be off his line like that. But to hit a strike in the way that he did and just get it just under the crossbar, just enough that it forces out of Roof's reach, yeah, you know, sometimes you've got to just step back and admire a good goal, and that one from Tyler Adams was just a wonderful strike. Thankfully, all spirits were not broken at the Stadium of Light as Sunderland progressed for the next 15 minutes of this half, playing again a fairly even game. In this one, I think it was just entertaining from start to finish of this, but we get through to the 30th minute and we see a challenge on Ronaldo, which there's probably some complaints that it's soft, but it's in the penalty box and it is a foul, and anywhere else on the field that would be given as a foul. And I do admire the refs' somewhat consistency and then pulling that up in the box, because you see them sometimes where they don't give those penalties because they say it's too soft, but as we know, anywhere else in the field that would be given. So yeah, they give us a penalty for the challenge on Ronaldo. There was complaints from the Bournemouth side. There was complaint from Bournemouth about a foul in a build-up, but honestly, I think they were just kind of begging it. I think they were just begging it a little bit. And then we see, interestingly, I heard this on, it might have been Connor Bromley's channel. I think I heard it on Connor Bromley's channel, and then when I rewatched the game, I seen it for myself as well. We seen Noah Siddiqui take the ball and sort of shield Enzo Lefebvre from being exposed as a penalty taker. And from there, we've seen Bournemouth players start to kind of get up, try to have a little go at him, try to get him aggravated before it. Ball gets put down in the spot, and of course it's Enzo Lefebvre who actually steps up to take it. And what a penalty. The way that water just comes off the net like that was so satisfying. But yeah, there was absolutely no keeper on earth that's saving that penalty. It was absolutely incredible from Enzo. And we look at him and go, right, you're locked on for penalties now, because the calmness and composure and those big moments that we've needed him to score those penalties, and he's just showed up and done them. Absolutely fantastic from Enzo. And really, although it's a penalty, we're seeing him rewarded for what is a great first half from him so far. We head into half-time, only 2-1 down, and the game's absolutely still alive for Sunderland. I think with this team, as we've come to know, not only just with this team, but just under Regis Fabrice in particular, it's just this never say die attitude that we've got. And if we can get into half-time close enough to the opponent, then we've always got a chance of getting back into it, because I don't know what they say to each other at half-time. I don't know how the team talks goes, but every single time they seem to come out and they seem to come out with so much focus and so much determination and a clear game plan to go ahead and try and get back into it. And it takes not even a minute to get back into the game. We see Bertrand Traore, as I said at the start of this video, score his first goal for Sunderland, and what I said was a cultured finish. You can see it. I think if it was one of the younger lads, take Talby for example, this is not just a fly dig at Talby, but I'm not sure that he would have had that extra little bit of experience and know how to take the extra touch, make the defender split his legs, and then put it through the defender's legs straight at the near post. It was fantastic, and just to get that with a little bit of power on it, again, a player I think being rewarded for his hard work in that game, because we've seen Traore take steps not only on his on the ball work but his off the ball work too, and to get him for 1.5 million, it has been a great pickup for us, and I think he's truly grown into it and truly understanding what Regis is asking of him at this point as well. Now, coming into the rest of the second half, I think, as I said a little bit earlier, I think Bournemouth started to lose their heads a little bit. I don't think they had the composure, and I do think this translated over from the coaches. We see Reggie standing there, composed, calm, translating everything he needs to through his words and through his hand movements, communicating that way. But Iraola was just losing his head repeatedly, and I do think he ended up getting booked in the end. But we see the game progressing, and of course, Enzo Lefebvre comes off for Shara Hirtrauda. Trey Hume comes on at right wing for Bertrand Traore, which was an interesting move to begin with. We'll get onto that in a little second. And of course, we see Wilson Isidore come off for Brian Broby. Now, let's talk about Brian Broby. I spoke in previous videos about not really feeling not feeling particularly drawn to Broby over Mayenda over Wilson so far. Like, I felt like the three of them were fairly interchangeable, and really just sticking with Wilson mainly because I wasn't 100% sure if Broby had as well-rounded a skill set as him. I think we all know what he's like in terms of his physical ball play. But I wasn't sure if he could keep up in terms of the off-the-ball work that Wilson does throughout a game, because he works his absolute socks off every single game, whether he's involved in the goals or not. He works his absolute socks off, and I wasn't 100% sure if we'd seen enough from Broby and the kind of shorter stints that he was getting to see that he'd be able to bring a more adaptive style to the front lineup. However, getting him to see him in this game for a longer period of time, for me, he has to start the next game. And I say that not with so much confidence because I'm ready to just bin off Wilson. It's nothing like that at all. But for me, having this longer feature in this fixture this weekend gave me a chance to see such a wider variety of play style from Brian Broby. Not only the hold-up play, but the off-the-shoulder, running onto the ball work. That, I mean, as soon as he came on, he practically got a chance straight away in that style of run. It was only really a weak shot in the end that never got him the chance for a proper chance on goal. But the way he was able to press off the ball, the way he was able to turn and run, the way he was able to hold up play, and of course, the goal, the fact that he gets his head on it and takes Sunderland into a winning position, yet again taking these big moments into his hands and just absolutely smashing it. So for me, I've definitely seen enough of him now and enough of a varied performance that he has to start against Liverpool. The physicality that he can bring and just that mentality stepping up to these big moments, I think he's deserved his chance now. He's got to come on. And now we talk about the wild card for this one, the absolute wild card that was Trey Hume coming on at right wing. Now, he just stepped up to the challenge yet again. When I talk about Trey Hume and talk about him taking this step into the Premier League, we're not only talking about a 250 grand player who came from the League of Ireland and made the step into English football, into League One, and then into the Championship. Well, in my opinion, being one of the better Championship fullbacks last season. But to step up into the Premier League in the way that he has, played in the back three, played in the back five, played in the back four, and then to take step forwards in the way he has into midfield and then into the wings as well. I mean, there's clearly a player that Regis trusts a lot and been able to take on his messaging and understanding the tactics. And I think, again, he just stepped up to the plate. It's Trey Hume's passing for me. Make too much of a comparison here. But for me, he's got the passing in the style of Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I think that should be a big compliment to Trey Hume, because the way he's able to put a cross in and stuff, yeah, for me, I think he has just been so impressive, and his willingness to do whatever the coach is asking him to do. And just stepping up to the plate, I think he did a real good job. And of course, from a tactical point of view, allowed Trey to easily step back into that back five and allow Sunderland to defend deep, which we did for a lot of this second half. You've seen it. We were quite often sitting in that bank of five and then in that bank of four. I'm not really surprised. You've been down 2-0 against a team that will punish you if you leave space in behind, which they very clearly showed in that first half. To then imagine to come back and be 3-2 on top, I think the game management in this game, the credit not only to Regis but to the team as well, because to bring in those styles of substitutions and get on in the way that they did, I think was tremendous. I think was fantastic. And then we get to talk about my other star boy. Now, I am an Enzo Lefebvre lover. I talk about him every single game and how much I think he makes an impact to Sunderland's forward line. But then we get to talk about the return of Romain Mundo. Now, for me, you're talking about such a young player, but I just think when you look at Romain Mundo, he looks like a player who's just so confident in his own abilities. I would never see him I never see him on the football field and look like he's got a seed of doubt in his mind that he can go forward and do something. Now, whether that always pays off to that kind of high standard and high quality is a different story. But a Premier League debut, making the runs that he did, the typical Romain Mundo runs that we've seen in the Championship, elevated to a Premier League standard. And I think he did a great job coming on, finding his feet and getting a real feel for the game. I think that's the type of game that would have really suited him to have been involved in from the start. Of course, it's probably fitness that's not allowed him to be involved from the start, but I think there's loads of similarities in the pace and dribbling ability and directness between Romain Mundo and someone like Antoine Semenyo. But just even then, the ability to have someone on our left wing who will cut in and who will shoot if they're given the opportunity every single time. He's nowhere near goal shy. And yeah, I think there's just something so impressive in a young player like Romain to just look so confident every single time he's on that football field, because I do think it helps sow a seed of doubt in the opposition's mind. And I am so glad to have Romain back in this lineup. I would actually probably like to see him start in this Liverpool game if he's got the fitness levels to come on and do it. I would like to see him start. I'll talk about that, of course, in the upcoming preview. We're going to have a busy week this week on the channel with previews, reviews, of course, with the double game week away to Liverpool and away to Man City. Now, that is the punishment for the so-called easy start at the start of the season, because now we're truly going to get into the thick of it with the fixtures. I mean, Liverpool away, Man City away, and then Newcastle at home. What a week this is going to be, for better or for worse, for Sunderland. But look, I just honestly, I'm not coming into this review with a hell of a lot of stats and official lines to truly paint a picture of how this game went. I think what we've got to talk about, though, is just the momentum of this football club, the way that they never will give up on a game, no matter what. The fact that I cannot wait for a derby just because of this team's attitude towards playing these games. That is going to be like proper battle fever in that game. I cannot wait for that. But yeah, I just think this team does not know when it's beaten, and it's so impressive to just come into the Premier League every single week and do what they're doing. Yes, of course, as I said, not a perfect win. I struggle to talk about Sunderland and their bad parts when we are winning games that we're down 2-0 in. Like, to come back from 2-0 down against Bournemouth and win 3-2. Incredible. First time in our Premier League history doing something like that. But for me, we'll talk about quickly on the best bits and probably things we can work better on from this game. Now, best bits, playing through the middle. We absolutely got far more chances to play the inside pass, to play through the middle with the likes of Alderete and with the likes of Enzo Lefebvre starting this game and playing the way they did. Not only that, I think the likes of Bertrand Traoré are just growing wonders with every week, and it's time to see Brian Brobby in that starting lineup. Now, in terms of things that we could get better on, of course, those misplaced passes. And we've got to complete more passes than that against the likes of Liverpool and against the likes of Man City, because they will punish you. I do think it was definitely weather affected with some of those balls not meeting the people they were supposed to. But also, Bournemouth are just a really great team who put the pressure on you, who make the space feel suffocated, who give you no room to put the pass in. So sometimes you just got to give credit to your opponent as well. And then last talking point, when are these yellow cards coming for Sadiq and Xhaka? Because I am starting to get a little bit nervous. It kind of feels like it has to be next game. Take the cards the next game, miss the Man City game, and get back in time for the Newcastle game. Because honestly, the thought of a weird time derby without Granit Xhaka and Noah Sadiq in that midfield, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to think about it. I just want to think about Sunderland being fourth place in the Premier League, which we are right now at the time of recording. Anyway, guys, a little bit rambly on that one. I think all of you will agree that it was just a sensational game of football in terms of entertainment. To come back, to win 3-2, to have this belief around the stadium and just the atmosphere every single time we are at home right now. I dare anyone to come and play us. And it's Newcastle next, so bring it on. Cannot wait for the next game at the Stadium of Light. That is all for that one, guys. I am buzzing to go on and talk about that. I think it was an excellent game, and I am so happy and so proud to be a Sunderland fan at the minute. As always, don't forget to subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on that game in the comments down below. I've got a feeling I know what most of those comments are going to say. How are the lads? Come on, boys, come on. But before we go, don't forget to check out the southstandclothing.com. 20% off ends on Monday night, so do not forget to get involved. Get your Christmas presents in, the southstandclothing.com, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. How are the lads? Come on.